So we're just going to do a little bit today looking at our balance. So as we get older, our awareness of our body in space becomes a little bit more challenge, and our balance can become a little bit harder to negotiate sometimes as well. So some of my videos that I've got on YouTube look at foot and ankle mobility and massage and stimulation with the underside of the foot, which can all really help us with our balance as we get older and just generally as well. So I suggest you perhaps have a little look at those. But in this video, like I say, we're just going to look at what we can do perhaps to assist ourselves when we are doing a bit of balance training. So if you have balance issues or challenges, then we can use poles. If you've got walking poles, they can work as well. So you can improvise if you don't have a wooden pole at all or two. Then you can use these to help as we work. So we could work if we're looking to challenge ourselves by balancing on one leg and we've got either two poles or one pole. We could work with the poles just as light as we can with our hands on the pole, and we can start to bring ourselves into a heel lift, so we come to the ball of the foot. We could come up to the tips of the toes and see how we feel there. And like I say, we might be needing those poles just to give us a little bit of support with that balance. That might feel that that's enough for you. If you wanted to challenge a little bit further, you could bring the leg up and come into a single leg stance and use those poles a little bit more maybe to see how we go with our balance in that position. But ideally we want to be as light as we can with our hands on the pole, so we're just using them as a light assistance rather than anything too much. Obviously all the time we're walking around, we're coming into a very quick single leg stance before we place the foot that's coming forward down onto the ground. So it is really key to our general mobility and being out and about, walking around. So like I say, two poles if you've got them available, or two walking poles or whatever you can use that are going to be of similar height, using them as a little bit of assistance there. If you've only got one pole, then I would perhaps suggest that you could use that pole in the opposite hand to your standing leg. So again, we could come up into that heel lift, being on the ball of the foot to the tips of the toes. We can lift the leg there, and so we've got our standing leg grounding us, but we've got maybe just that one pole then giving us a little bit of support instead. Equally, we could use the wall for support. If we do need something on both sides, or even just on that one side, we can do exactly the same. You might feel then that you can be really light with the hand on the pole and light with the hand on the wall, just so we've got that balance there. Or we can put the pole aside and we could perhaps just use the wall for a support and work there. But we're trying to work towards a place where we can allow a little bit of foot and ankle mobility to build that strength through the foot and ankle and lower leg compartment, but in a safe place. So we can just start to play with it where we bring the hand a little bit lighter onto the wall. If we wanted to start to bring it into a little bit more movement, we could work, if you've got space, running alongside a wall and bringing ourselves to a narrower base of support that would be how we may normally walk. So we could do a little heel to toe. Imagine you're walking along a tightrope, and as you do that, you could just have the hand on the wall to give you a little bit of assistance there. And then we can come back, very good for opening up the hip and opening the hip extensor and working the hip extensors. We can come back toe to heel. So in this position, if we can, we want to have the foot directly one in front of the other, a little bit like if we were walking on a tightrope. Again, we could use just a single pole and the wall on the opposite side, obviously, or if we've got those two poles, we could use them both as we come forward. If that still feels a little bit too much of a challenge, we could bring our feet slightly wider. So rather than one foot in front of the other, we just have a slightly wider base of support, but we're still sort of challenging the balance there. And we want to try and maintain, rather than looking down at our feet, we want to try and maintain a nice postural alignment as we work there, obviously making sure we've got plenty of space behind us, particularly when we're coming backwards and no trip hazards in the way. So we can work with the poles there. Sometimes two poles or the wall and a single pole is better because then perhaps you're not too dominant on one side. And again, we can try and be as light as possible with our hands on the pole there. So a few little options. If we're feeling a little bit more confident, we could bring the pole into the hand, and imagine if we were walking along a tight rope, we could hold the pole, we'd have the hands shoulder width apart, and just see how that feels, maybe just heel to toe coming forwards. Sometimes it helps just to close the chain of the body by holding something between the hands. You could use a band or maybe a scarf in the hands instead, but bringing that little bit of sense of tension if it is a band or a scarf, and just coming forward and backwards again from there. Or like I say, slightly wider base of support, or you could just come a little closer to the wall so you've still got that connection of the pole in the hands, but you could have the edge of one hand just in connection with the wall, and just carefully, obviously you don't want to be scraping the wall, but the end of the pole and the side of the hand is on the wall as you work there. It's all just going to really hopefully help to build that little bit more confidence as you move around and as you challenge your balance. And you could do the same there, coming up into a single leg stance with the pole and the edge of the hand on the wall, and just see how that feels. If you wanted to challenge a little bit more and build a little bit more strength, you could try a single heel raise on that standing leg, or with the pole down, one hand on the wall, and just working into that single heel raise from there. Obviously, if you're quite comfortable with your balance, we can then work freestanding, lifting the leg, and then into a single heel raise from there. And some days our balance is better than others, but it's just always working at a level that feels right for us and challenging ourselves in small ways, using the assistance of a pole or two poles if we need to, just where, you know, to build that confidence, like I say, with our balance as we're working. So there's no harm in using one pole, there's no harm in using two. It's just building up as you feel comfortable. You could also use your pole underneath the hand, bring both hands on top of the pole, either with the feet in parallel, and just try some heel raises from there. Again, it's going to challenge our balance as we're bringing both heels up, or we could bring the heels together with about a fist distance between the toes in Pilates stance with a little wrap of the legs at the top of the legs. We could add some heel raises from there using the pole, or we could bring the feet together. Again, you could use both poles for these exercises if you want to, the wall if you need it, but feet together. It's that narrowing of the base of support that brings more challenge to our balance. So yeah, just play with it. Like I say, you could do sort of like single leg lifts that you're just coming a little bit more quickly into one foot and the other foot balancing, again using the pole for support, or we could come to a split stance of the feet and just start to work having a little bit more space between the feet as we do, so not having the foot one in front of the other, but just starting to maybe pick that back leg up and see how that feels for us, or even the front foot, or even front foot into the back foot. So just different ways, like I say, just to sort of challenge our balance, using the pole, using the wall, using two poles, or working without. So I hope that's just given you a few little ideas of what you can do. Like I say, look at the other videos that I've got with regard to foot and ankle mobility and massage stimulation for the underside of the foot. We've got so many proprioceptors on the underside of the feet. We really want to keep them sort of stimulated and feeling helping us to feel our way around as we're walking around. So yeah, do look at the other videos, and I hope this one's been of help to you.